What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the DFS Dose YouTube channel. My name is Joey, and if you're new here, what we do is we discuss the Draftkings main slates each and every single week on this YouTube channel. In this video specifically, I will be going over some concepts and stacks to consider for week 11 on Draftkings. If you're new and like what you hear, man, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 400 subscribers, and every subscriber matters, so please subscribe to the channel. As always, you can leave a like on the video if you enjoy this content, and you can leave a couple comments down below on your thoughts and questions for week 11 on DraftKings. Without further ado, let's discuss some of my favorite stacks for week 11 on DraftKings. All right, so I have DraftKings opened up, and I think we have a pretty good main slate for this week. We have 4 games that have totals above 50 points, but there is one game that stands clear-cut above the rest, and that is the Cowboys and Chiefs game. They play at 425 this Sunday, and that is going to be the game that everybody gravitates towards for GPPs and cash games this week. With a total of 56, it's clear-cut above the rest of the games, in my opinion, and obviously you're going to want to play this game a lot in your GPP lineups, but I think there are some ways that we can leverage the field in this situation. And one way that I think we can leverage the field is by utilizing late swap to our advantage this week. And if you're not late swapping on DraftKings each and every single week, you are leaving EV on the table. You should be on your phone at 4 o'clock looking to make any swaps that you can. And swaps are just EV just because we have the most amount of information possible that we didn't have before pre-lock, right? So we know if the chalk failed or succeeded in the 1 p.m. games, and we can make decisions accordingly to those results. And this week is setting up to be, one of the 2 or 3 weeks that we usually get in the season where there's going to be a chalky 4 o'clock game, and every other game is going to be pretty contrarian in terms of ownership. And we know that a lot of the chalk players are going to come from that Chiefs and Cowboys game. We know that Dak and Mahomes are going to be owned. We know that Tyreek, Amari Cooper, Travis Kelce are all going to have ownership, so we can make our decisions early based on that ownership. This is a slate that will reward the contrarian players, in my opinion, especially if you go contrarian early and that stack hits early, and then that opens up your lineup to anything. You could play the chalk, but if your stack or if the chalk fails in the 1 p.m. windows, you definitely should not be playing the Cowboys and Chiefs game at all in the 4 o'clock window. So this is definitely setting up to be a massive late swap week. In my opinion, from a GPP just strategy, you're going to want to play contrarian early, get different early, focus on game stacks or team stacks in the 1 p.m. window, and then correlate the Chiefs and Cowboys game in terms of mini stacks in those lineups. Or you're going to want to play Chiefs and Cowboys stacks and play contrarian mini stacks in those lineups and swap off of them if your contrarian pieces don't hit. And if we're talking about the latter, where the contrarian mini stacks don't hit early in your lineup, and if you have to swap onto a stack that is lower owned and has high upside in the 4 o'clock windows, I think that stack is the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals stack is definitely a great stack to swap to if you are behind in your tournament lineups. You have Joe Burrow, who is 6,600. Jamar Chase is obviously priced up at 7,200. And T. Higgins, who figures to be one of the more popular receivers on the slate, is priced at 5,400. And then Tyler Boyd is 4,800 as well. And honestly, you can include Joe Mixon in this because I don't think Mixon will have much ownership, and he's 7,600. It's really just stacking up the Bengals that I like if your lineups do not hit early, and it's a good spot for the Bengals. We just saw what the Chiefs did against the Raiders secondary, and nobody is going to play the Bengals this week. So my preferred options would be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. That can get you off of, Dak, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill, and I think presents similar upside, and I definitely love a Bengals stack this week going into Las Vegas. So give me the Bengals as my favorite contrarian stack off of that Chiefs and Cowboys game in the 4 p.m. window. And then there's just some clear-cut bringbacks, in my opinion. You could bring it back with Darren Waller, who is 6,100. You can bring it back with Hunter Renfrow, or if you want to get like just stupid, you can play like Zay Jones or Josh Jacobs or something like that. Josh Jacobs is 6K, and I think Jacobs or Darren Waller would be my preferred bring back. The Bengals give up the second most catches to opposing running backs per game. So I think it's a good spot for Jacobs, who definitely has some upside now in the receiving game. As you can see, 4 targets, 5 targets. He's being utilized. Kenyon Drake is obviously eating enough of the snaps to kind of limit him, and I don't think either of them are going to be played much. Kenyon Drake is 5,200. I don't think Kenyon Drake is in play at all. So I would just limit the bringbacks to Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller if you have to stack the Bengals. My favorite contrarian game stack, or team stack I should say, that is going early would be Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, and then you can also include like Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabe Davis, whomever in there. You know, you're getting a good price on Cole Beasley, 4,800, 5,300. But the Bills offense in this spot going up against Indy, I don't think this is going to be too owned. Especially with Dak and Mahomes being several $100s cheaper, and then obviously Tyreek and Devontae Adams are going to take up a lot of ownership at wide receiver. So you're getting one of the highest ceiling stacks on the entire slate at low ownership. So I think Diggs and Josh Allen are 2 great GPP plays this week. And if those guys smash, then you have the ability to swap on to the Cowboys guys, to the Chiefs guys, and get that chalk in your lineup because they are the best plays on the slate. And then if Josh Allen and Diggs fail, you know, you can swap to the Bengals-Raiders game. You can swap to the Cardinals-Seahawks game, which all have cheap pieces littered throughout those 2 games. So Josh Allen to Diggs, I think, is one of my favorite stacks on the board. And then if we're discussing bringbacks, Jonathan Taylor is always in play. Michael Pittman, I think, is in play. But I think this week you don't need to bring it back just with the plethora of options that we have at the bottom of the player pool. And really the 2 Colts guys that I want, in Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, I don't think are great bringbacks this week. So Josh Allen, Diggs, can even include Cole Beasley if he plays, or Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is 3,900, salary saver. Leverage off of Michael Gallup chalk, leverage off of Rashad Bateman chalk at the bottom of the receiver pool. This is definitely one of my favorite double stacks on the week. Titans would be my third and final favorite team to play / stack for week 11. You have Ryan Tannehill, who is 6,700. You have A.J. Brown, 7,700. And Marcus Johnson is 3,500, who I think is going to come with some ownership this week. It's just a good spot going up against the Houston Texans. Everybody knows that the Houston Texans are an abysmal franchise. They can't stop anybody. I think it is a bounce back spot for A.J. Brown, who had 1 catch for 16 yards, as you can see on the screen, 3 fantasy points. I definitely love targeting the Titans receivers in this spot. I think Dante Foreman is in play, and just as a one-off, he would be one of my favorite long shot tournament plays this week. Dante Foreman, that is, at 4,900. Revenge game against Houston. He outtouched AP 13-9 last week, and he just looks to be the most explosive running back in that running back room right now. The only concern is that it's basically, a 33-33-33 split between these 3 guys right here. So we're kind of just going to have to project Foreman to take over that workload, hopefully, and dominate in this spot where I think the Titans should be leading and controlling the game. But nonetheless, I love Ryan Tannehill. I love A.J. Brown. Marcus Johnson is a cheap correlation piece. And then in terms of bringbacks, Brandon Cooks is 6,000, and Cooks is easily one of the highest targeted wide receivers in the NFL. He has a 30+% target share, which is top 5 in the NFL, and he's really the only Houston Texans player that I would consider bringing it back with. You obviously do not have to bring it back with a Houston player just because Houston is dreadful and their touchdown expectation is probably the lowest out of any team on the slate anytime they are on the main slate. But it is a good spot going up against this pass funnel Tennessee Titans defense that is getting smoked by wide receivers. They give up the most DraftKings points per game to opposing wide receivers. So I think Brandon Cooks is the clear-cut bring back. And like I said, this is just a contrarian stack early, and then you can build your lineup to play some of the chalk guys in that Kansas City Cowboys game. If the stack goes off, then you are sailing to the money. If it doesn't go off, then you could swap to the Seahawks, to the Cardinals, to the Bengals. All 3 teams I like to get contrarian with in the 4 p.m. window. And that's just kind of what I want you guys to take away from the video. It's not really about the players you pick this week. It's about how you construct your lineup in a thoughtful and meaningful way. How you should be building your lineups is play contrarian early and sprinkle in those high-owned chalky guys if the contrarian plays hit early. Or you should be building your lineups where you're playing a Cowboy stack and you try and get leverage by playing like CeeDee Lamb, who's probably going to be lower owned, or playing Byron Pringle or some leverage pieces in that game, and then building your lineup with other contrarian mini stacks sprinkled throughout. But this is definitely a week where being more contrarian will be beneficial. And this is also a week where you should be on your phone at 4 o'clock, on your computer, whatever, and be ready to late swap, because it is definitely going to come into play this weekend. You never know. Late swap could be the difference of you winning $10 on the week or you winning $1 million on the week. So that is my advice this week. The stacks, obviously, I say my favorite stacks, but you got to be on your phone, ready to go at 4 o'clock, depending on how the 1 o'clock games go. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a lot. Podcast drops tomorrow. Make sure you check that out if you want to hear our thoughts on some individual players for cash games and tournaments. Hope you guys have a good week 11. Hope you guys bank some tournaments. I will see you guys next week.